We decided to track down the woman in the video, you know, the one in the police headquarters, to hear what she says really happened at the moment that the camera was turned off and then suddenly came back on with her lying on the floor. Chris spoke with her and her lawyer, and we're going to hear more from that. But Chris brings us some dramatic new details about the incident first. Chris.
Now, first a warning. Some of these pictures are graphic, but this is what we ask for in this country. Police are encouraged to have cameras document their actions so we don't have any questions about what happens in these interrogations. So, when an officer stops and then restarts a camera, questions about why are natural, especially when a woman is bloodied in between.
You're not going to let me call anybody. You're not going to let me call anybody.
Angie Garbarino was arrested last November on suspicion of DWI by Shreveport, Louisiana police. On the tape, you can hear her repeated demands to make a phone call.
I have a right to call somebody right now, and I know that. Is this on the record? Yes, ma'am. It's good.
Wiley Willis, the arresting officer, tries to read her rights.
Don't you touch me again. Get away from me! Get away!
But what happened after that is a mystery.
You understand, ma'am?
Yeah, I understand.
Because the officer turns off the camera. When recording resumes, Garbarino is seen lying in a pool of her own blood.
That man threw me on the floor. Look at me.
She says the officer, who was subsequently fired, beat her up when he turned off the camera. The officer's attorney says he followed protocol.
At that time, she tried to leave the room again. He tried to stop her, and in that process, she fell and injured herself.
What we find to be unreasonable was the behavior of the suspect from the point that she first came in the room.
Okay, nobody disputes that Ms. Garbarino was in a mood state and that this was a little bit of a difficult situation. The facts go to why this happened, who did what. For the first time, Angie Garbarino is ready to talk. She joined us with her attorney, Ron Machota, just a short while ago. Ms. Garbarino, let me ask you the main question here. What happened after the taping stopped that made you be lying in a pool of blood? What happened?
Officer Willis came over to me in the chair. He threw me against the door as he did in the video. That's when the video is still turned on. I hit my right side of my face, and then he slammed me against that black file locker, and that's where this gash in my forehead that you see is. And then he, threw me to the ground. The
officer, his attorney, they say that you were uncontrollably drunk and fell, and that's why this happened. Is there any truth to that?
That is not true. No, sir.
At any time,
and by the way, that's not a mug shot. That is not a mug shot. I was not booked.
I understand that. Do you remember how much you had drunk? Do you think there's any chance that you don't remember things that happened in there because you were so intoxicated?
No, sir.
Do you remember the officers?
I remember everything.
Did you try to leave the room? That's the big point for the police here, that you tried to exit the room, and that's what triggered the officer to respond. Did you try to leave when you were resisting?
Are you serious?
Well, I wanted to make a phone call, and he wouldn't let me, and I kept asking him, why could I not make a phone call? I repeatedly asked him, why could I not make a phone call? I think he just ignored me.
At any point, did you try to exit the room that the officer, that validates the officer's statement? He says that you tried to exit the room and you weren't allowed to exit. Do you remember that happening?
Yes.
Mr. Machota, let me ask you something. Is there any reason that you can think of, that you can tell me under local law, that the officer would have had the right to stop recording? Because that's what's shocking people.
Well, the video can be turned off or on at any time. However, when you have a female and you're there alone with a female that, from their version, that she was resisting, you would think that you'd want the video running the whole time so the whole story's told. And he chose to turn it off for whatever reason.
You also make an issue of the fact that you can see the officer looking at his hands when the tape is put back on and your client is lying on the floor, as if to indicate that he's looking for blood or looking for injuries. Explain that to me.
That is correct. There on 3 occasions he looks down at his hands to check and see if there's any blood on his hands after the video comes back on. And he shakes his hand. He looks at them twice, and then as he's leaving the door, he looks again at his hands and his clothing to see if he's got any blood on it.
Angie, what do you see when you look at that picture of your face?
It was very painful, and it was a nightmare.
Well, Ms. Garbarino, Mr. Machota, thank you for joining us this morning. For all that terrible, whatever happened in that room in the picture, it's good to see you looking so well today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Difficult situation. Sometimes these analyses are complex. This is a very simple situation. This is all about why that camera was turned off and what was done in between. The officer has been removed, but it's pending an appeal. But that's the whole discovery. There's nothing more going on than that.
In a flash, be the first to know what's coming up on Good Morning America tomorrow with the GMA Daily Flash email. All the great insider details you want to know from GMA. Go to abcnews.com, click the GMA page, and sign up for the Daily Flash. And you can even enter to win the weekly GMA Flash gift bag giveaway. Sign up now.